Okay, Mr. Young, so today we are going to look at T 3.4K, which is solving one-step and two-step problems involving multiplication and division using strategies based on pictorial models, arrays, area models, equal groups, properties of operations, or recall facts. So one of the things that I want you to look at is your assessment from last week. And I want you to tell me what is there anything that you notice that the students are doing well, and what are some of the areas that you think we can make some upgrades or improvements?
So what I've noticed is that students can annotate the questions, but are struggling putting the pieces together to help them solve the problem. So one thing that we can work on is having a more definite problem solving method or model to help them actually synthesize the questions.
Okay, so good. That's what I was going to tell you. So I was going to tell you that your students are doing really good at annotating the word problems, and we can see here where they're labeling and they know, that obviously the question is important and the key numbers. But then, yes, when it comes to them creating a problem solving model and filling out the different parts that we've talked about in our PLCs, they are struggling with that. So one of the things that I wanted to help you out today was on how to get the students to struggle, but in a productive way, and so that they are more able to take the problem and understand it. So we're going to watch a quick little video, and while we watch the video, I want you to take notes. And anything that you feel that the teacher in this lesson is doing that you could probably incorporate into your lesson for next week.
Okay.
Mathematics. So today we will see productive struggle. I predict that some kids will kind of be challenged by some of the pieces in our problem today. There's that fine line of productive struggle and then frustrating struggle. And so as an instructor, it's finding that balance and knowing what pivotal question to pose so that the productive struggle continues, but en route to that fruition of being able to problem solve.
In terms of productive struggle, I think that that's key for students to learn. And so giving them problems that challenge them, that they really have to think about, how should I go about tackling this? What are some different strategies that I could use?
Now we're going to read this again. What I'd like to have happen now is I'd like partner B, my partner B, to read to partner A. And now both partners will describe the quantities in the problem. So remember, the first time we didn't use quantities. Now, the second time around, we're going to use quantities.
I would show them multiple ways to multiply fractions using bar models. Students were kind of pushing against me, and we talked about the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, and that sometimes having more than one way to solve a problem is going to be helpful for you. And we can't always just rely on one thing because that's what we're comfortable with, that we have to stretch ourselves. The brain is a muscle, and the only way that your muscle is going to grow and be stronger is by trying new things.
Partner A's, I'd like you to discuss with partner B what your drawing looked like, or what your model looked like.
Drew a focus square around it to represent the frame. And in the middle, I wrote 400 inches to represent the area.
And so giving them problems that challenge them so that they're not being spoon-fed how to do a problem, and they're going to have a better understanding of the problem and more buy-in if they kind of struggle at first.
Why would it be perimeter versus area? Great question. Let's have a discussion with your partner. You got 30 seconds. Go.
We already know the area, which is 400,
yeah, and then
perimeter is unknown, and the perimeter is basically the width around the square perimeter.
yeah, because like a fence is perimeter around the grass area.
Yeah,
So
so that's basically,
And so what I'll do is, while students are working on the problems, I'll walk around the room and see some student work that I think would be beneficial for other students to see. And so either I will have the students come up and explain what they've done so far, or I'll bring up the work myself and ask questions to the class.
All right, so we're gonna look at two different students' work. Here the student has a model.
Okay, so one of the things that I want you to tell me is what was the role of the teacher in that classroom? What did you notice that he was doing?
He was more so a facilitator,
Yes.
and he will walk around to see if other students or their peers can help them teach it, because students learn better from other students. And so just giving them that freedom to actually gain knowledge from each other.
Right, and I don't know if you heard him, but he did say that he allows them to make smart mistakes, and that he allows them to turn and talk, discuss, explain, share. And so it's not so much that he's doing the talking and explaining and showing, it's they're thinking through it together and going through the thought process of each part of the problem. And so I want you to think about what you do in your classroom and what this teacher did, and how he, like you said, is a facilitator. And I want you to think about, what do you think is the biggest gap between your practice and what you saw this teacher doing?
The biggest gap between my practice and what he was doing is I guide students too much by giving them too much information and not allow them to think on their own.
Okay, so what do you think that does to the students? How do you think that is having an impact on them?
Well,
Based off of, I'm sorry to interrupt, based off of what you see on their test.
It's more so spoon feeding them more information than they should be able to synthesize on their own.
Good.
So based off what he was saying and what I learned in the video, students should not be spoon fed. They should be able to try new things on their own, so they can use their brain muscles to actually conceptualize what is going on.
Good. So what I want you to do now is I want you to think of what you saw, what you do in your classroom, and then what is one thing that you think that you can take from what you saw this teacher do that you can incorporate into your lesson, let's say in the next few days.
So I can take the guiding questions that he asks and then have my students turn and talk and walk around and facilitate their conversations as they're talking to each other.
Good. So I want you to write this down. And so I'm going to tell you the action steps that I think will help you. So first, like you said, being a facilitator and remembering that, yes, we want to help the students, but we don't want to give them everything. We want to make sure that we guide them and that we allow them to have those discussions. So one of the things that I want you to practice in your lesson next week would be to have the students pose the problem and then have them read it, and then read it over once. So you could even read over with them, the problem the first time. And then the second time, have them create a pictorial model of what they understand. And from there, you'll want to have them compare. So just like we saw in the video where the kids are actually looking at each other's work and finding the similarities and the differences. And then as you're walking around, making sure that if you do see those smart mistakes, that you have those guided questions to, get them back onto the right track. But even just having the higher students, sharing the responsibility with them and having them come up, just as we saw in the video, he has like some of the students come up and share their work and explain. And then I feel that if you take those steps, that will truly help your students be able to synthesize and understand what they're reading in order to have them be able to justify their work. And so when we look at their test again, we'll see a difference as to, okay, yes, they know how to annotate, but then what do I do with that? And why am I doing that? And that's where the synthesizing comes in, and then, them being able to justify their reasons as to why they're doing that. So it's about creating the opportunity for them to have those discussions, to think through.
Okay.
So if you will read to me what your steps will be back now. So how did you understand those steps?
So I'll have students compare their work, and then once they compare their work, I will guide thinking by using smart mistakes. I'll guide their thinking by correcting smart mistakes that may occur in the classroom to help them get back on track. And then I will have my expert students come up, either teach or help other students within the classroom. I would justify, synthesize different opportunities, the question to help students conceptualize what the problem is saying and put it together.
Right, because the whole point is that we want them to have that productive struggle to where we know they're justifying it.
Right.
Okay, so I want us to look at our DOL for next week. So for our demonstration of learning, and I want you really quick to prepare for me an exemplar. So what is it based off of what we saw and what you've done with them to where they know how to annotate? How do you want them to create the problem solving model? And so I'm going to give you like 2 minutes to read that problem and then create what you want to see on their paper the day of the test, like what you expect them to have on there.
Okay.
Okay, so it looks like you have it down. You've listed, what you want the students to do. And so I want you to carry this with you as you work on the rest of your week's lesson plan. And just even, when you're picking the problems that you want the students to work out, just start, thinking, okay, what might be some misconceptions and what are some guiding questions that I can put into my lesson plan. So when I see that in the classroom, I have those questions ready. And then we'll meet again next week. And that way we can go over, if there's any areas that you're struggling with, and, we can practice, or I can help you out with that.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for coming and letting me guide you in helping your students learn how to productively struggle.
All right. Thank you.